Hey, how's it going? It's Sam Frost here from Easy PPC Tutorials, and in this video, what I want to do is show you what happens when you actually implement Google Ads advice. So what I mean by that is Google Ads account specialist recommendations, or account expert recommendations. Basically, where Google contacts you as an advertiser and says, "Hey, we've audited your account. We found a whole lot of optimization opportunities. Get on a call with us, and we'll go through them and help you set them up." So to give you some context, this client. Very small project for me, sort of a one-off job. They approached me late in 2022, starting a new sort of holiday accommodation business in a certain part of New Zealand. I'm not going to give away any other information just to protect their identity. And they came along and said, "Hey, we just want someone who can set up a test campaign, just like show us what we might be able to do with some basic Google Ads spend." Hence, the campaign that's set up is called Test Campaign. There's a search campaign. It's been running since I think the 1st of December 2022, something along those lines. As approached to November 2022, trying to line this up with sort of summer holidaying season in New Zealand for people holidaying both domestically and coming from overseas. Now, long story short, I was pretty pleased with what I was able to do considering their project budget and ad spend budget. Got something up and running that, at least in terms of things like search term relevance, was really delivering good quality clicks. This accommodation provider is not for everybody. It's like a very specific kind of product they're offering, basically, without revealing too much more. And so I was happy with what had been achieved. They were happy with what they were getting as well. We were seeing some initial performance, some initial results. Now, the website for this business only launched around the time the ads started. They didn't have any other promotional methods or mechanisms like Facebook ads or an email list or anything. No organic traffic coming through. So there are a few bookings that came, and pretty much the Google Ads derived bookings off a small spend. So we're pretty pleased with what we're getting. Now, fast forward past the 2022-2023 holiday period, Christmas, New Year, all that, and I come back to work, and sort of mid-January this year, the client reached out after the project had basically wrapped up and saying, "Hey, being contacted by Google, they've audited the account. They've got an account specialist who's got these great recommendations that will help boost the performance of the account. We're going to go on this call next week. Would you like to join?" To which I said, "Look, thanks, but no thanks. I've never seen good advice come off one of these calls. I'd be a bit wary of this." Now, this actually caused a little bit of tension between myself and the client because they took the position of, "Oh, well, Google's the more trustworthy partner here." I mean, look, I get it, right? Google's the big company. I'm just a small guy, trying to make a living, basically. And Google does no evil. So who are you going to trust? Probably Google. And this is why I wanted to share this example. It's a perfect example of where Google's approach to some of this really doesn't pay dividends and actually is detrimental for the advertiser. So long story short, they went on the call. They've obviously gone away and implemented a whole lot of recommendations, which I've just recently looked through because, like I said, the project had finished from my end. Early March 2023, so earlier this month, I get a email from the client saying, "Hey, got a problem. We've implemented these recommendations, but our performance seems to be worse. The ads are costing us more per click. We're not getting as many clicks. What's gone on? Can you take a look?" And this is my first time going back into the account. And basically what I want to do is show you with a month-on-month comparison, because the implementation of these changes that Google's account specialist had recommended occurred sort of very late January, early February of 2023. So you've got almost a full month-on-month comparison. And here are some of the headline stats. So a nearly 200% increase in cost per click, a nearly 50% decrease in click-through rate, small increase in impressions, nearly 40% fewer clicks, and a whole lot more cost. Now, cost itself is not necessarily a problem if it's turning into revenue and profit. But certainly these are like top-line metrics, CPC, seeing a nearly 200% increase in CPC, seeing a nearly 50% decrease in CTR, seeing a whole drop-off in clicks as cost skyrockets. These are not things that you necessarily want to see. And I don't think that seasonality is a factor in discussing with the client. It's not like, hey, the seasons have changed so much for the type of service they provide that you're bound to see a massive drop-off in demand. There's still demand out there, if that makes sense. So it's not really a seasonal issue. There might be a small factor there, but this is not normal. And all of this can be drawn back to exactly when the changes were implemented, the most notable change being this bid strategy here. So you'll see that this account or this campaign for the month of Feb 2023 has a 51.02% conversion rate. Now, that's insane. An accommodation provider, doesn't matter if you're the Ritz-Carlton or, the Tokyo Peninsula or any of these great hotels, you're not going to get a 51% booking rate through your website. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to get 50 room bookings off 98 clicks on your ads. It's just not a thing, right? Maybe in your dreams. And so the first thing I looked at here is, well, what change has Google recommended that this client make? Now, this campaign used to actually be a maximize clicks campaign with a CPC limit on it, and that was just set up in order to basically get some data delivering quickly. If you recall from earlier in the video, the purpose of this campaign was really to test the waters with Google Ads and see, could we actually get any relevant clicks, looking at search terms and so on, what were the benchmark metrics, and then based off that, could we justify scaling this up and trying to do some things like modify the website in order to be able to actually track conversions accurately. And so Google's come along and made a few recommendations, and by the looks of things from the change history, actually helped the client implement these recommendations on the call or very soon afterwards based on the dates. And there's been some changes, things like opting the campaign back into search partners and changing the match types of the keywords. But the biggest change has been this bid strategy change from maximize clicks with a cost per click limit to maximize conversions with a target CPA. The target CPA is set at $8 per conversion. And you can see for February is $6.30. So you're looking at this, and I know exactly how this would go if you would jump on a call with Google's ad specialists and go through this. They'd say, oh yeah, well, your CTR has dropped and your CPC's increased, but look, you're getting all these conversions at a lower than target CPA cost per conversion. We're crushing it for you, basically. But that's a whole lot of bullshit. It's really not the case, because if you go and look at the conversions that have been set up for this client, they're all a whole lot of nonsense, really. The site was not particularly well set up to track conversions because of just the requirement to get something set up quickly for this client. They're working on improving the systems they've got. But long story short, you book through a third-party platform. And at the time that all of this was set up, the third-party platform they were using, they weren't sort of on a plan that would allow you to actually do a post-booking and post-purchase conversion track. So if you're familiar with payment gateways like PayPal, for example, someone can basically check out on your site, go through PayPal, leave the site to purchase, and come back. And there's ways you can pick up on the transaction and pass it back to Google Ads, or you can pass it through to Google Analytics. This particular booking system didn't have that capability, at least from what we understood and what we were told based on the platform and the plan they've got. But that doesn't matter to Google. Google's come along and just said, oh, if you just set people clicking on the booking link as a conversion, and set that up so that anytime someone clicks on the booking link, it registers a conversion, that's going to tell you what you need to know. Or if you even set up to the point where if you go on this website and you click on the rooms link in the navigation menu, so if you just want to look at the different rooms that this provider's got available, that registers a conversion. And that's where we're getting all of these crazy different conversion actions coming from, all of these different conversion types. So you can see here you've got book now, location, and room. So book now is somebody actually clicking through to the booking site, the third-party booking platform, from a specific call to action button on the site. And you can see for February, there's just been 3 of those. And that's not 3 bookings, that's 3 people clicking on a Google ad, then clicking off to this third-party booking platform, not necessarily filling out their information, not necessarily booking. All the rest of the conversions have been people either clicking on a location link in the nav menu or a rooms link in the nav menu, both of which just take you to pages on the site where you can see either a Google map embed of the location of the particular accommodation provider, or a list of the rooms and the sort of rough pricing rate cards for these rooms and photos and so on. And so long story short, what Google's managed to do in implementing their amazing advice and recommendations is result in this client paying a whole load more than they need to for inferior quality advertising, because Google's come along and said, oh, trust us, we'll help you set up the conversion tracking. The clients bought hook, line, and sinker this message that they're getting accurate, useful conversion tracking. And I know how the call would have gone. The rep would have pushed aggressively, oh, you need to be using conversion optimized bidding, and I'll help you set up the conversions, and these are what the conversions should be. And then Google's algorithm, not through its own fault, really, because ultimately it's just a computer doing computery kind of things. It's taking this data of people clicking on the nav menu link for the location or clicking on the nav menu link for the rooms for this particular accommodation provider and thinking, well, these are great conversions coming in because I'm just taking the data I'm being told to look at, and it's optimizing the ads for people who are more likely to click on a room page or click on a location page, and it's being given a cost per acquisition, a target CPA that is sounds really low as a headline figure. $8 as a limit and $6.30 paying for the last month sounds great, but actually it's not. It's terrible when you consider the actions that are being taken. If you look at the Book Now link, that's the only piece that has any real commercial value. Even then, it's not actually a full booking. It's just somebody clicking on the Book Now link. But that, if we actually worked it out just as a bit of quick maths, $315 spent on these ads for 3 people to click through to the booking link off 98 clicks. That's a rubbish conversion rate in and of itself, and that didn't even turn necessarily into room bookings. And just the cost to get someone clicking through from Google Ads to the Book Now link is over 100 New Zealand dollars per conversion in effect. So way higher than an $8 target CPA. So long story short, this is an example of where Google's advice has gone wrong. They've basically pushed on an unsuspecting advertiser this altruistic offer of a free account audit that has done everything that I've warned them in the past and warned other advertisers about. You're paying a whole lot more to Google in terms of cost per click, in terms of advertising spend. You're getting nothing extra out of it. In fact, you're losing out here because you're spending a whole lot more for no gain. You'd be better to bank the hundreds of dollars extra that Google's effectively wound up charging and putting it towards something else. It's not worked out well. Depending on how this pans out, I'm going to have to go back through and fix this all up for the client, and they're probably going to have to pay for my time again to do this. And no doubt as soon as we've done that, Google will be back on the phone saying, oh, we've got a whole lot of great more recommendations for you that probably just benefit Google. So moral of the story, and it's a bit of a rant because I literally saw this afternoon and decided I needed to make a video about it. You can see here the negative impacts of Google's advice. It's not to say they can't ever give good advice, but this is a classic example where they've pushed on an unsuspecting advertiser. Oh, you need to be using conversion optimized bidding, and we've got these great algorithms that will help you get more customers, and oh, let's set up your conversion tracking for you, setting it up in such a way that it looks better, way better than it is to an unsuspecting advertiser. And I think it's really unfair on small businesses trying to just use the platform to promote. Had they just left this advertiser alone, they would have been in a far better position. If you've got any questions on this, please do let me know. Otherwise, I'm off to write a response to this request I've got. I'll keep you posted on how it goes. I'd love to hear your stories as well. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.